We're already in July, it's still going to be just the first round right now, and although this draft class isn't getting a whole lot of love by seemingly recruiters or even fans, and I can kind of understand why with the academy stuff, the good news is that there is not that many academy and father-son picks in the first round now. A few of them are falling away. Is there a couple? Yeah, there's a few. As much as projected? Potentially not. So let's get into it. I'm still on the Dyson Sharp train for pick 1. I don't really understand why he's in the teens for a few of the experts, to be honest. I don't think Cal Toomey had him in his top 5. I definitely don't think Rookie Me have got him in their top 10 at this point. I just think it makes perfect sense for Dyson to be a part of this conversation, averaging over 27 disposals in the national championships, won the WARC medal for the MVP of the entire national championship competition. He's averaging 16 disposals and 8 tackles at SANFL level. That's SANFL seniors, not under 18s. If all of the detractors are true about his athleticism, then look, I still don't think it's going to be the worst case scenario. And what he's going to be able to do, if he's your in and under guy, Matt Rowell style, then you're taking Harley Reid's power and endurance in the contest to the outside rather than the inside. And Harley on the outside could be so much more damaging, as could an Elijah Hewitt. It makes too much sense. The first one here, but Zeke Uwland, 13 disposals in his VFL debut, which is fine. He's finding his feet after his back injury. Is a top 5 talent for good reason, the rebounding halfback, and not the first rebounding halfback Gold Coast are going to take in this draft, by the way. But he is undoubtedly the best of the best when it comes to the Gold Coast kids, and I think a bid for him is going to come super early. Not much more to say here. Looking forward to seeing what he can do over the next few months to push for this kind of spot. I can understand people that are looking at his form this year and lack of it because of that injury going, what the heck is he doing up high? Just wait and see, I promise. Well, Daz, you spent 22 minutes talking about how West Coast aren't going to take a ruckman, right? Yes, I did. They still are. Cooper Duff-Tytler is going to be the go here because after that video came out, a couple of the guys that I talked to in the draft space both assured me, and they don't know each other, that West Coast love this guy. So let's see how that looks. I also believe, and I believe this very strongly, that if West Coast do try to split this pick, which is what they're going to get for Oscar Allen, but they don't deserve it. That's a whole nother conversation. They're going to get it. I think you need to wrap your head around that. That'll be the AFL's compromise, I promise you. They're going to try and split this, I think, and they're going to try and split it in a way that they are still going to end up with CDT, which makes sense, because if you can split it and get CDT and someone else, that's a win. For the sake of this, though, this is where he's going to belong here. Didn't really have a standout national championships game, averaging 15 disposals, 16 hitouts, 19 disposals, 22 hitouts in the under 18s, which is just more than handy in terms of numbers, as we know. But the guy is Tim English-esque. I know that West Coast have had some luck with Nick Naitanui being taken so early. I'm still not 100% sure on what it's going to look like. I'm sure he's going to change my mind throughout the next few months. But also, we've got to kind of look at these players as who they are and maybe not from a historical standpoint. So that's something I've got to get better at. Willem Duursma ends up at pick 4 to the Tigers, whose numbers across the national championships look pretty good. He's really consistent at under 18s level and had 17 touches and 10 marks in his VFL debut for Casey. What he would bring to the Tigers. And now what's going to be really interesting here, and what I like about the fact that Taranto and Hopper are still there for the Tigers, is that they do not need sent-up bounce talent. You're looking at Taj Hott and Josh Smiley, the guys that they drafted last year. You're still looking at a Tyler Sonzi, who they still believe is going to be a part of their midfield rotation moving forward. Duursma doesn't necessarily need to be that. Quite a few of his under 18 and championship games were spent in defense, rotating through. He is a guy that they might be able to play in a variety of positions, who maybe has that versatility a little bit better than Zane does, while they figure out what spot he is, and that natural talent, natural ability, which he has got in spades, is going to serve him really well. Would be an awesome fit at the Tigers and be a jack of all trades until they figure out what his best spot might be. Knows how to hunt the footy though, and he's a powerful athlete. My notes on Dan Annable have not changed. He is consistent. He is almost boring in his application, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. He may not have the sizzle, the highlight reel of some other players, but you don't need that in every other player. The fact that he just finds the ball 25 times is well and truly good enough, makes really good decisions, is impacting the scoreboard in a nice kind of way, and I think he's going to kind of be the forgotten guy in this draft because he's got two things working against him. One, people are just going to point out how much Brisbane are getting for free, even though if there's one interstate club that deserves it, maybe after all the crap they went through in the mid to early 2010s, or even late 2010s as well, it's probably Brisbane, and he's kind of locked into that top 5 range anyway. And then, like I said, the second part is the fact that he may not bring the sizzle of some other players in that top 5 kind of region, but he'll end up at the Lions, and when he becomes a really good AFL player, I'm going to be very happy for him. And then we go to Josh Lindsay, who I kind of feel the same about Duursma as I do with Lindsay in one key aspect, and that is the fact that they do not need to start at the centre bounce, but can still have a midfield say, if you will. Lindsay off the halfback flank is just golden. Now, I'm not suggesting that he and Duursma both need to be halfback flankers, especially considering that they've got Tom Brown, Sam Banks, these kind of guys that are down there. Jaden Short, of course, is still there, but as a ball hunting and winning player, I could definitely see Lindsay lining up on a wing at AFL level. Now, he's saying spending a pick this high on a ball-winning wingman, is that going to be worth it? That potentially may be a story for another day. But for Richmond right now, I think best player available is what they're going to need to do. And I think Josh just perfectly fits that mold in a big way. He finds the footy in the mid-20s just all of the time, has got leadership capabilities, is a genuine freak, and only one person had Josh in their top 5 in April. This guy. So, yeah. Big fan. All right, Daz, this is getting a little bit predictable. Can we get a bolter, please? Yes, you can. Pick 7, Essendon, Sam Cumming. The way that this man is able to impact forward of centre is really what the Bombers need right now. Archie Perkins is kind of copping it from fans a little bit. I can kind of understand the frustration in the lack of output. If you really want that high half forward that can impact the scoreboard, there is one available in this draft. Now, is it going to take longer than 6 months to get him up and about? Yeah, it is going to, but the numbers don't lie. 17 disposals and a goal in the National Championships, 24 disposals and 5.5 inside 50s at under 18s level, and he's still averaging 16 disposals and 4 clearances in the sample, is just showing the way he's applying himself. The guy wants the footy. He wants to kick goals, and I think would bring a level of excitement alongside Kako and a couple of their academy guys. It's a fit that I love, and if anyone should take a chance on best player available, a mix with positional need, it's the Bombers, especially with their 2 picks. So, honestly, I bloody love this. If Wanganeen Millera stays, and I think he's going to at this point in time, don't quote me on that, it's not my official prediction, I think he's just going to go into the midfield full-time. He just has to. He's had 70 and kicked 6 in his last 2 weeks as a full-time midfielder, for crying out loud. I do think Sam Grlj is a guy they could go with here. I'm still going to go with Ollie Greeves. I just think he fits the St Kilda mold so perfectly. A big body midfielder. He and Mateus would make a tremendous combination if his stats live up to what he could produce at AFL level in a couple of years' time. Hopefully Mateus Phillipou can be fit and firing, but as you know, my frustration with the Saints midfield is that it did become a bit more vanilla and boring, and I know they had the amazing three-quarter time comeback. They still were down by 46 points at three-quarter time. 2 things can be true. Part of it was the way that they were just not getting entries and were getting belted through the midfield. It is still definitely a point that they need to look at, and considering that they have been chasing experienced midfielders for pretty much half a decade now, if they're not going to be able to find one circa Zach Butters or anything like that, they may just have to go to the draft and try it out on a midfielder, and Greeves is going to fit that mold. Another guy who can find it 25 times, have good pressure, and he's a decent kick of the footy as well. Not perfect, but a decent kick of the footy as well. Dylan Patterson arrives at the Suns at pick 9. Here, just where the bid is going to come in. The second rebounding halfback flanker that the Suns are going to take in this draft. His numbers dipped a little bit in the National Championships, but 19 disposals is still nothing to flounder at. I think that when Cal Toomey had him on Gettable, they called him the Rocket, which I thought was pretty cool as a nickname. Hopefully it upsets people as much as the Wizard did for Nick Watson, because if it's disrespecting Jeff Farmer, does the Rocket disrespect Rodney Eade? No, or maybe people can just have the same nickname and it's not that big of a deal, for crying out loud. But that's not really about Dylan Patterson all that much. Again, with the academy guys, I can understand a sense of sort of fatigue with these guys because we know where they're going. So it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind a little bit. But he's got an absolutely lethal foot. I love the speed that he covers across the ground. And again, like a few of the academy guys, might be underrated going in. Although, out of all of the academy guys, maybe Uwland accepted, I think most people that are keeping an eye on Patterson just know how good he is. There has never been a better time to be a ball-hunting, uncontested, rebounding, good kick of the footy. Essendon are going to take Sam Grlj here. Now, one of those things doesn't necessarily sum up Sam. He is not the best kick of the ball. Understand that. However, a lot of experts love him. I'm not saying that I don't, but I don't think I would have him this high in, say, my power rankings. In terms of what the Bombers could do, though, and what they need, I think it could come down to one of two selections. I think what Grlj is able to bring with his endurance and athleticism does sort of kind of put him over the top here, but Cumming and Grlj together will make a good 1-2 punch, along with the Bombers getting their 2 academy guys, and of course what they're going to be able to do with Buick coming through the system as well in a year or two is simply extraordinary. But Grlj here to the Bombers is a pick that I really like. I think he suits what the Bombers can do really well, and if he can just tidy up his kicking a little bit, could become a premier weapon in this competition. I like the idea of the Hawks bidding on Max King here because it's just something that we would do, but it doesn't really matter where King is going to get bid on. He's going to end up at the Swans, it highly looks like. The thing that we kind of getting frustrated with a little bit, well, I am, especially as someone that is watching the draft really closely, is that we are kind of not getting the output that his athleticism produces. Not averaging a goal a game as a centre forward player, not exactly finding the footy in a big way. The upside is definitely there, don't get me wrong. But out of all, I think the guys that are connected to other clubs, if one of them had to have a big last couple of months of the season, I think he would absolutely be top of the list. And I hope he can get it done as well, because like I said, the way he can kick the footy, the athleticism, how clean he is below his knees, all of those things are really good on paper. We'd just like to see a little bit more execution. The Hawks have proven that positional versatility is going to be key for their smaller players, and I just think that with Deer, Lewis fully fit, Chol, and even Jasper Scaife once Jack Gunston retires, I don't think the Hawks need to go for a tall forward here. I was watching some WA highlights not too long ago before deep diving into the games, and I looked at a kid and I went, "You're Jordan Dawson." I just see so much of Jordan Dawson in this guy. I was like, who is that? Because I wasn't actually watching for him. His name's Jacob Farrow, and then the ESPN stuff came out, and it turns out that he has been around these kind of draft boards for a little bit, and I went, I love this guy. I think what he could be able to do as a midfielder, if the Hawks can't get one in this offseason, would be immense. I think it's highly likely we either re-sign James Worpel as a depth midfielder or he ends up going somewhere else. I still think the Hawks might be a midfielder short. That's just my opinion, though. Is that going to be solved by an 18-year-old? I don't know. He doesn't necessarily need to start as a midfield-type player. He is averaging really good numbers at Colts level. His waffle numbers are looking really good for an underage player as well, which is awesome. He is a beautiful user of the footy. He has got IQ off the chain in terms of his footy intelligence. If he was a stock right now in the market, I would be buying some, and he is the guy alongside Sam Grlj that I think Essendon could even consider as a guy they could actually look at and take. I think he's going to rise up draft boards really quick over the next month or so. The Blues get another centre-half back here. Harry Dean is the guy that I'm going to go with here, just matching a bid. And look, his numbers look really good. 17 disposals, 7 marks at under 18s level. Had a pretty good national championships, and what he's going to be able to bring to the Blues is going to be really solid in terms of joining Jacob Weitering and Harry O'Farrell as a back shoulder defender who, of course, can take intercept marks as seen by his numbers there, which is going to be a really good pick. The Jack Silvani thing is going to hurt. TDK going is going to stink. They're probably going to get a compensation pick, which actually I will put into the next mock draft there. So the fact that the Blues may be able to get 2 picks out of the first round of this draft, not bad. The offseason's still going to stink, but it's not bad. Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves is going to end up at the Bulldogs here, a pretty polarizing player in where he should be standing in a lot of power rankings that I'm seeing around at the moment. In terms of an X-factor forward of centre player, the Bulldogs could use that. I know they've got West. I know they've got Vandermeer. They've got Flea Waitman to come back in. I understand all of those kinds of things. I just think adding another one. They got Cooper Hines as well. He's not going to be a bad thing in the slightest. I don't particularly think they could go down the key defender path here. I don't think there is one on the board outside of maybe a Xavier Taylor, who is a little bit undersized at 191 centimeters, is going to be the way to go for the Bulldogs. So is it a case of X Factor, best player-ish available? I think he's a really good fit. He is ultra dangerous wherever he gets the footy. Isn't the most consistent in terms of his output, which is something that, of course, can be improved in the next couple of months. I think the Bulldogs would be a really good landing spot. Speaking of Xavier Taylor, welcome to the Dockers, who already do have some hybrid defenders. I know, but their midfield is already stacked. Their forward line is working really nicely. I think adding a guy who could be a hybrid lockdown is a really good thing here. Nothing wrong with his level of talent. His output in national championships and under 18 levels still read really strongly. He's good in the air, he's good on the ground, but more importantly, and something that I think Justin Longmuir and the rest of the Freo guys will love, and even the fact that they're getting Toby One as a midfielder means they're definitely, I don't think, going for a midfielder at this spot. But what Xavier Taylor is able to do that is so underrated for good defenders across the competition, he makes good decisions. Never underestimate that kind of power that a drafter can have. Good decision makers is going to get you so far in the competition, and he is definitely one of them. Fred Rodriguez ends up at the Giants, and I think in terms of fit, this is awesome. An outside midfielder, which I know they've already got in Callaghan, but Kelly and Canelio are not going to be there forever, and I still think they are a midfielder short on their list after those two go. I love what Rodriguez can bring to the table. Didn't actually end up in Cal Toomey's Phantom Draft and was slipping in a lot of other power rankings that I've seen. In terms of watching his film, I can see why a lot of people would like him. I do like the fact that he can work on the outside of the stoppage. I think he might be more system dependent than maybe most other midfielders on this mix. I think the mix that he would have with the Giants is a big one. I think they can get a lot out of him as well, and one that I would be keeping an eye on. A couple of reports are stating the GWS might be looking at moving on from this pick, which I can completely understand. But for this version of the mock draft, the second Western Australian comes off the board. The Bombers matching the bid for Adam Sweid is going to come in at this point, and my goodness me, I don't think we can bring up that this guy has recovered from an ACL. And what I mean by that is his output is so good at this point that going, well, what about his knee? No, not what about his knee's bloody fine because he's taking the piss. His under 18s numbers are genuinely ridiculous. I thought he had a pretty good national championships, was a little bit inconsistent at times, which is true for a lot of people in this draft. But for a midfielder who likes hitting the scoreboard, that fills a part of Essendon's list profile that is uber important. They've already made a couple of good picks in this draft already, and he would, of course, be the third. I think Bombers fans would jump on board this young man pretty quick. West Coast go to South Australia and take Jevan Phillipou here, the brother of Mateus at the Saints. In terms of pure midfield output, his numbers read really well. Now, he has had a broken arm that has caused him to miss a significant period of time throughout this season. What he's able to do post-stoppage, I think he's going to appeal to the Eagles in a big way. Now, they've already taken Sharp and CDT in this mock draft. Now, the CDT bit's not that important in terms of midfield production. Of course, it's going to be if he's going to be their ruckman long-term, which, of course, in this iteration of the mock draft, he is. But you've got Dyson Sharp, who's going to be in and under at the ball. You have got Harley for his work powerfully beyond the stoppage. I think Jevan has got a little bit of Touk Miller in him for the way that he's able to win the ball at clearance. I like his two-way work, even though he doesn't have massive tackle numbers. And the way that he wants to get forward to the ball is going to bring some excitement to the Eagles. I think this draft, if the Eagles, whatever they're going to do, they need to go for impact. Needs to be the number one quality that their players bring. I don't think they have done this well enough over the last few seasons. And whilst, yes, development is going to be a big part, which they're pretty good at doing across the board, high impact players are what they need to go for. Plotters will not be accepted in this draft. And Phillipou is definitely not that. 23 touches, that amount of clearances. Yes, please. Pick 19 for a tall forward. The first one off the board. Aiden Schubert ends up at the Cats, which, let's be honest, is ridiculous based on his output, averaging 2.5 goals in the national championships, 18.5 disposals, 7 marks, 2 goals, and over 100 Supercoach points in his under 18 campaign. This is just the best forward in the draft, like tall forward. Yes, Mitch Marsh, also a South Australian, is very good. You've got Liam Heatherton, you've got Archie Ludewijk. You've got some guys there on the board that could appeal, and then you've got Taj Murray, you've got Louis Emmett that can play more of a ruck forward role as well. moving forward in this draft. I feel like I'm missing someone obvious in that department as well. I apologise to them, but Schubert out and out for what he is able to do. Jeremy Cameron, I know he's going to win the Coleman and could kick 85, 90 goals this year. He's not going to be around forever, planning for the future outside of Shannon Neal. If you're able to put this guy in your reserves for 2 years, get him up and going and raring to go, and then you plug him in with Shannon Neal when he becomes the number one man, if they don't go and get one on the trade market, would be highly beneficial for the Cats. So at pick 19, adding someone of this quality as a Hawthorn supporter makes me sad. As someone that likes doing mock drafts, it lets me know that this is a really good pick. And last but not least, with the Crows, we are going for Lachy Dovaston, who is going to bring some excitement. Small forward may be the way, well, may not be the way to go if you're feeling like a Crows fan at this point in time and you go, really? Rankin? Rochelle? Ben Keys? Alex Neil-Bullen is a high half forward? What are you doing here, Daz? What are you thinking? Well, considering Rankin is playing more centre bounce and probably will be moving forward, Rochelle, Keys, it's nice to have down there. They've got the three talls. Neil-Bullen's a really good asset as well. The Crows aren't really in a position where they need to take a positional need at this point. I just don't think plugging another 18-year-old midfielder into this side is going to be the way to go. Harley Barker is one they could look at if they want to address the wings. Again, if they want to, I suppose. But in terms of a guy of this quality at this point in the draft, I think you've just got to go with best player available. Dovaston would be that, averaging over 2 goals a game in both the championships and under 18s. He's a good pressure forward as well, something that isn't exactly what you would think of in terms of Rankin, Rochelle, and Keys, to be perfectly honest. Neil-Bullen's got some really good defensive pressure acts inside the forward 50 as well. This is just where I think the Crows go. Is it the one that I'm the shakiest on? Probably. This is definitely more best player available than positional need. But when the Crows are as good as they bloody are at this point in time, what do you want me to do? That's the way that it goes. So 20 picks in the first round. Plenty of father, sons, and academy players not in this iteration of the mock draft. And that's kind of saying something considering that bids should be taking place reasonably early. I think clubs need to be a little bit more dickish and ruthless about this. They're not. You got to live with that. But also, there's not too many of them that are really exceeding expectations, to be completely honest. So there you go. In terms of guys that are unlucky to miss out, Barker probably stands out. Taj Murray, Louis Emmett stand out as well. Riley Onley, who has put together some really good form as a taller midfielder. But that's this month's mock draft, guys. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit 6,000 before the final start. I need your help doing so. Hope you're having a fantastic week. Make sure you're joining the channel throughout the weekend as well for game reviews, especially for isolated games. Have a good one, guys. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.